To hunt a species to extinction is not logical.
Whoever said the human race was logical?
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where this week we are continuing our exploration of Star Trek for the Voyage Home. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Roca. I'm a writer, producer, host in San Diego, California, and excited to be back in the 23rd century, about to head off into the 20th century with these two gentlemen.
And we, of course, would never venture time travel without the assistance of our Star Trek expert, the great Scott Mantz. Welcome back to the Cine-Files.
Fellas, it is so great to be back here on the Cine-Files with my two favorite movie friends, talking about my absolute favorite thing in the world, which, of course, is Star Trek. We had such a great conversation about the Voyage Home in part one of the Cine-Files on Star Trek for the Voyage Home, and we are literally just getting started.
And, of course, just as the crew of the Enterprise has always needed the support of Starfleet Command, we need the support of our good friends at patreon.com/the Cine-Files, as well as Apple Podcasts. There literally is no Cine-Files without you. So thank you, all of you, for your incredible support of this show.
Yeah, another way you can support us is if you hear during these commercial breaks some of the products that from the clients that sponsor us here on the show, and you want to try them out, then using our code to get massive discounts on those products and to signal to these clients who sponsor us that they should keep sponsoring us here on the Cine-Files. That's another way you can help us and also help yourself. So please listen to that and help us out here on the Cine-Files. Thank you, guys.
And where we left off, the crew of the Enterprise had determined that the fate of the humanity rested on going back in time to rescue two humpback whales and bring them back to the 23rd century. And that's what we're doing right now as the Bounty is flying off fast towards the sun.
What's our target in time?
Late 20th century.
Can you be more specific?
Not with this equipment. I've had to program some of the variables from memory.
What are some of the variables?
And then Spock, in Spock fashion, lists all the variables he had to keep in memory and do math with.
Prompting, of course, the perfect response from Dr. McCoy.
Angels and ministers of grace defend us.
Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 4.
Once again, Star Trek quoting Shakespeare. Spock knowing where this line came from. Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 4.
And I think that makes them feel a little bit better that maybe his memory is working, you know?
Yeah.
The one thing I like all the differences on the Klingon bird of prey as they accelerate. There's not nearly as much shaking and rattling on the old Enterprise as there is in this ship, and I think that makes that a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Before we jump in, do you think they could have pulled this off in the Enterprise? Is there something, because I mean, Enterprise would have had a cloaking device, right? So would they have come up with this idea if they weren't in a Klingon ship? Because I mean, where would they have been able to hide the Enterprise, a massive ship like that, on Earth and not be seen yet still be close to these whales? It seems to almost be a bit of luck, and of course screenwriting luck, that they're flying back in a Klingon ship with the cloaking device.
Great question. That's a great question, Johnny. My intuition feels like, yes, of course, the Enterprise would have been able to do it. The Enterprise already did it twice.
Right.
Once by accident in Tomorrow's Yesterday, and then deliberately they did it in Assignment Earth to observe the happenings in Earth's then tumultuous year in its history, 1968. But what they've been able to sort of hide themselves from the monitors of the 20th century. And I feel like even though they didn't have a cloaking device, they did have their deflector screens. Which
good call.
I'm willing to bet would have been a way for them to hide themselves from the censors of the time.
Right on.
I think Kirk would have found a way.
Yes,
but it certainly is lucky that we have. What I think is great, there's just this great thing that happens when you're writing sometimes where you realize that you set up the thing. They didn't know they were going to go back in time and have to hide the bounty in the middle of Golden Gate Park. But the moment, I'm sure, where they went, oh, we have a cloaking device.
Right.
They went, oh, everything is coming together. I also think, by the way, this approach to the sun as we're accelerating and we can hear Sulu counting off the warp speed and the speed of everything and the shaking and the explosion that happens and all. I think it's pretty thrilling in terms of getting back in time.
It really is, because as Sulu is counting off warp 9.2, 9.3, the bounty is shaking more and more. And as it gets to like, I think 9.7 or 9.8, the monitor screen by Uhura explodes. You know, what's interesting about the way this scene is shot, where you see the bounty like kind of pull away from the sun. When you go back and watch the remastered version of Tomorrow Was Yesterday with the new visual effects that they did back in 2007, the shots look very similar of the bounty and the Enterprise, you know, the TOS Enterprise pulling away from the sun. Just an observation.
And then we come around the sun going super, super fast, and then things get real weird.
This is 1980s weird, yeah.
I mean, we got Kirk's head morphing into other heads, and we have like things falling, and it is full on. I think we did too much LDS in Berkeley. That's what seems to be going on here.
But you are hearing you're hearing lines from the rest of the film, because you hear Scotty say, "There be wheels here." And you hear Kirk say, "Haven't you gotten any goddamn feelings about that?" I mean, you don't know that you're hearing lines from later on in the film. You don't know where these lines are coming from. But yeah, I wonder what the storyboard must have looked like for that, or what the conversations Nimoy had with visual effects, because that looks a lot of CGI is going on there.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Remember, you guys, when we did Star Trek The Motion Picture, there was this feeling of like they wanted to compete with 2001, right? Yeah. And I wonder if some of those ideas are here in this time travel sequence, because it's kind of similar to what happens in 2001. I mean, obviously not as artistic or as jaw-dropping, but there are elements of it that feel like 1970 sci-fi approach to time travel, even though this is a mid-80s film. And especially seeing that weird body, like just floating through this blue flame and then landing in the water. Like, what is all of that? And so it seemed like
the image of the as they're starting to come to, you see like the water, the pond. Yeah, with the reeds. With the leaves and everything emanating from the water, and you don't see the bounty, but you hear it fly overhead.
Right.
And then the water ripples for a little bit, and then it calms down, and then it's like slowly dissolves back into the bridge of the bounty with everybody kind of passed out. I think it's a beautiful sequence.
Yeah.
It is definitely goes into the realm of, we're going to try something here. You know, like it's not a linear thought. It's like, we're going for something. And I just want to go. I have no evidence of what I'm going to say at all, but I want to tell a story that I knew someday we would get to this movie and I could tell this story because it has its origin in an earlier episode of the Cine-Files, which is that two of my favorite episodes, and I think, John, you'll agree, is when we did Back to the Future with Mike Vogel and Shannon McClung as our guests.
Sure.
And there was some time where they were in discussions with ILM, and ILM was trying to figure out what time travel looked like.
Right.
And they came up with this whole conceptualization that involved the latest technology and was very exciting. And I know that they presented it to Zemeckis, and it was going to be expensive, but this was going to look very cool. And Zemeckis said, "Oh, but time travel is instantaneous. Like, but we don't see anything. There is no time passing. That's how we're not going to shoot anything for time travel." And I remember when we discussed this, that ILM was a little dissatisfied that all of their work into this conceptual idea of time travel had to go away.
Wow.
And a couple of years later, we have this. So,
interesting. Okay.
Well, that, you know what, it makes sense that of all the time travel scenes we've seen depicted in TV and film over the years, that Zemeckis makes the most sense. You know, when you're with Marty McFly inside the time machine, the DeLorean, and he hits 88 miles per hour, and then
he's gone.
Then he's like it's 1955. He hits the scarecrow and smashes into the barn, and old man Peabody comes out and shoots one of his pine trees, and the rest is history.
Yep. But we have gone through our crazy time travel, and I just want to point out that, it's little things. I know you guys will both appreciate this, that you keep consistent when you go from the TV show to the movies, is that whenever the whole crew gets knocked out, Kirk always wakes up first.
Yeah, of course. He's the captain.
Or he's the last to pass out. Like, remember
Or the last to pass out. Why not both?
I take full responsibility.
So he wakes up, he wakes Sulu up, and I like that it's sort of it's like everyone's kind of passed out on the couch of they waking up after the crazy party they had the night before. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
Earth. But when? Spock?
Judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived at the latter half of the 20th century.
Now, what does that remind you of? Did that ring a bell to something we might have heard, something similar back in the original series?
Oh,
I'm assuming maybe in Bread and Circuses.
Oh, you're good. You're good. You are good.
Is that it?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm referring to.
I was a little scared on that one.
God almighty, Steve. I tell you, yes. Yes, in Bread and Circuses, when they beam down to the planet of the Romans, and you hear Spock looking at his tricorder. He says about the pollution content of the air, and McCoy goes, "The word was smog."
I think this is the beginning of a thing this movie does that's hard to describe, but it's like taking advantage of our love-hate relationship with our present time. You know what I mean? Because there's this moment where it's like, oh, yep, judging from the pollution content, late 20th century, there's this kind of thing like, yeah, man, that's my century. You're coming to see me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are quite a few shots taken at the current timeline. Yeah.
And as we fly towards Earth, we hear,
Admiral, I am receiving whale song.
Put them on speakers.
and then we hear the actual whales. And it's kind of moving, I think.
Yeah, because now you're not listening to an adjusted version of the whale song that Uhura put together when they were trying to figure out exactly what this was. Now you're hearing the actual whale song, and there's no score, no incidental music going along with it. It's just them listening to that, going like, "This is what we came here for."
Admiral, this is strange. The song is directly ahead. It's coming from San Francisco.
From the city?
I want to say something totally dumb, which is that, I mean, we've all done this, I'm sure, Scott, when you've seen stuff from Philadelphia, movies from Philadelphia, that you have special relationships to it, or John, if it's from Northern Virginia or other places you've lived, this is a very small thing that makes this such a San Francisco movie to me, which is they said from the city. And I know people don't know this, but people, if you hear someone say, "Oh, I'm going to go to San Fran," or "I'm going to go to SF," or "I'm going to go to Frisco," none of those people are from San Francisco.
Right.
Nobody in San Francisco says that. If I say I'm going to go to San Francisco, I say I'm going to the city. The city is the name of San Francisco to people who live in the Bay Area.
How
That
interesting.
is such an interesting observation. Yeah, I do know that people from San Francisco hate when other people call it all of those things that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is, from Philadelphia, even people from Philadelphia refer to it as Philly.
Yeah.
Like they don't like, yeah, I'm from Philly. I always say that. I never even say the whole city's name. I'm from Philly.
Right. Yeah. Which is it. But I can't say to someone who doesn't know me, it's like, "Where are you from?" "I'm from the city." That doesn't make any sense at all. It only makes sense if I'm in the Bay Area at the time.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Admiral, we have a serious problem. Would you please come down?
And what we find out from Scotty is, of course, the dilithium crystals are decrystallizing.
What's happening here that they always did so well in the original series. We already had the stakes high. We had to find whales, convert the cargo bays into a water tank to hold the whales, and then go back to the future. But now it has turned into a race against time, because we have to do this before the crystals are deteriorating, and we have no way yet, anyway, of how to do that with this more primitive technology in the century that we are now in.
Yeah.
And yet that primitive technology might be the solution we need, because Spock realizes that there was this flirtation with nuclear fission reactors in the 20th century, which is so funny because at this time, in terms of the environmental way of looking at the world, the idea that we were using nuclear power was crazy. And all of lefty people like me were out protesting against nuclear power. I'm kind of pro-nuclear power at this point in life. Things have changed.
Wow.
And what I think about it, but that's a conversation for another day. But it's just interesting, where we are.
Where would we find these reactors, theoretically?
Nuclear power was widely used in naval vessels.
I think this is one of the most beautiful long-term setups for a joke ever. It's still good what they're setting up.
It's a great long-term setup for a joke, but also for a moment that kind of hits you right in the heart for a minute there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get to that moment soon.
We're flying into the city, and Sulu says,
San Francisco. I was born there.
I love that. I love getting that backstory.
I have to believe that he made sure that was in the movie. I don't know if the writers put it in already to give Sulu a little showcase, but we know George Takei has been real clear, real open about his protection and his love of the Asian community and what happened to his parents and his family in the Japanese and German camps. So San Francisco is well known, to be a city that supports a very strong Asian community. So I would imagine that was an important thing to say at the time.
That's a great point. I wonder if that came from George or if that came from the writers.
Yeah, it's like a signaling to his community, right? Because Nichelle Nichols makes it very clear in numerous interviews how Martin Luther King talked her into going back to Star Trek after she was considering leaving.
Correct.
Because what she represented to Black culture, to Black people, right? And I wonder if this was George Takei, who's no wallflower, a way of signaling to his own community, like, I'm going to represent us or give a little shout outs, like the Carol Burnett ear tug kind of to his community. I wonder.
Oh, wow. Good one.
It's really interesting to think about how important the characters of Sulu and Uhura are, considering how little they were given to do through much of the original series, like just these tiny little that we held on to. And now when we get to Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 4, where they're going to have just giving them a moment means so much,
Yeah, it sure does.
Kirk spins around. I just like the framing of the shot that he's sitting in the captain's chair, but he spins around so we can see the view screen in the background, and he gives everyone his orders in that. Uhura and Czechov are going to go find some nuclear vessels. McCoy, Scotty, and Sulu are going to figure out how to convert the whale tank, and Kirk and Spock are going to find the whales.
I want you all to be very careful. This is terra incognita. Many of their customs will doubtless take us by surprise. It's a foregone conclusion. None of these people have ever seen an extraterrestrial before.
And Spock reaches into his robe and in a total, John, I'm sure you'll agree, actorly way, mimes that he's tearing some fabric out when he clearly is not.
But John, you brought up something in the part one of this conversation about Nimoy's performance.
Oh, yeah.
How there are some of his best moments in this movie are without any dialogue. And I think this is one of them, because without saying a word, he tears off part of his robe to make a bandana to put around his eyebrows and his ears. But then the look that he gives the crew, and then the look that he gives McCoy and then Kirk, like, it's like problem solved. And there's humor to it, and you chuckle at it, but it's all without any dialogue.
Yeah, and it kind of also, if you're playing this, if you're watching his arc specifically, it's also, as an actor, you're giving the hint that pieces of your memory are coming back, and the comfortability of doing this kind of joking is what you do with people you're comfortable with. So he is slowly coming back to who he is. And a moment like this kind of showcases that. So yeah, great point out, Scott.
And after some final inspiring words, we're commencing landing procedure. And then we cut to what I will call a classic supporting characters bit with a couple of guys in a dump truck. It's such an 80s scene.
You didn't see that, neither did you.
We've talked about in the movies we talked about, and also in the episodes of Star Trek. Shift in tone. Shift in tone. One of my favorite movies of all time is the original Superman from 1978, directed by Richard Donner, because of the shift in tones between Krypton and Smallville and Metropolis. And the shift in tone from the moment Kirk says, let's do our job and get out of here, remember where we parked, to this moment now with the guys, with the trash guys, the movie is already something different. It's a different thing. It is immediately a fish out of water. And we're going to see in a second, especially when they're in the city, downtown. Yeah. I love how the shift in tone, it's like, okay, now we're going to have some fun.
That moment where the gangway comes out, like that light from the cloak ship comes out and they appear, the dump truck drives away terrified. And as you said, Scott, the line of,
everybody remember where we parked.
I think that's critical to the whole movie. You know what I mean? It was in the trailer and it sets the tone of like, oh, I get what this is going to be. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And we have that hard cut to the bustling city with the music hitting, and it looks great. It's super chaotic, super urban. They walk into the middle of the busy street, and a taxi almost hits them, and we hear,
"Hey, why don't you watch where you're going, you dumbass?" Well, a double dumbass on you.
One of the great lines, right? One of the great lines. This moment when they shift from everybody remember where we parked, and then, you hear the music cue and then the cut to that more contemporary urban setting in the score and certainly the setting itself in the city. This is the beginning of Act 2 in the film.
Yeah.
Just like we talked about how I think I was pointing out in part 1, how, there are 3 distinct points where it goes from Act 1 to Act 2 to Act 3. We just crossed over into Act 2 the moment we see our normally composed, confident crew in the 23rd century. Now they have no idea what the hell they are doing. They're truly fish out of water in the 20th century.
It's a miracle these people ever got out of the 20th century.
They're still using money. We got to find something.
and he gestures for the crew to stay there.
And the rest of you break up. You look like a cadet review.
they're all like totally out of their element. And I thought about it too when I was rewatching the film. So after Tomorrow Is Yesterday, and then City on the Edge of Forever, and then Assignment Earth, this is the last time you're going to see the original series crew in the 20th century.
Oh, great point.
I just think it is so fun. It's just, this is a gift to the fans. You know what I mean? Like, we've loved all these characters, and now we see them in this looking awkward and goofy in the middle of a San Francisco street. And there's just a feeling of, yes, I'm in for this. You know?
Yeah. They strip away all the rankings and we from having watched them for years, there's a level of respect and nobility that we kind of see these characters have, even though they have flaws and foibles and challenges and hurdles and are tempted by things throughout the series and the first few movies. But here in this moment, you strip away rankings. They're just bumbling around. And so it's almost like the first time you see your father or your mother like have a little human moment when you've seen them as this revered thing in your life. And it kind of changes things and makes them more human, more relatable. And I think this is a great moment because it's the way they're like, kind of bouncing into each other because they don't know which way to go after Kirk tells them to go and do whatever they need to do. I think it's a really funny moment. And it allows us to connect and care for them more because we're cheering them on even more so because they're fish out of water and we want them to succeed. It's so smart.
So we cut to an antique store where a guy is perfect casting for an antique shop owner, comes downstairs with the glasses that were given to Kirk in Star Trek II. And we're trying to sell them.
I love Spock says,
"Excuse me, weren't those a birthday present from Dr. McCoy?"
And there will be again. That's the beauty of it.
He's not wrong.
I mean, that joke is such a, again, it's a gift to fans. And I like, too, the comedy's always good with these guys.
I'll give you $100.
Is that a lot?
But the way Shatner can be so serious, very Kirk, very commanding, very, like warrior diplomat, and then the way that Shatner is able to just flick a switch and turn into a piece of the action, Trouble with Tribbles, I Mud. That's where we're at now.
I mean, this is the remarkable thing about Star Trek to me, is that one doesn't outrule the other. Like, you could do the fact that you can do I Mud and do City on the Edge of Forever, and these are the same characters, and we accept it. The only show that I think has ever gotten it to this degree, to me, is Strange New Worlds. Like, Strange New Worlds can have a musical episode and an episode with animated characters showing up that are completely fun, and then they can have some really fucking heavy episodes.
Yep,
absolutely. And the fact that they decided to make Strange New Worlds a throwback to the original series by making it, episodic, that really opened up the opportunity for them to take those big swings and those big tonal shifts from episode to episode, because if it was like Discovery or Picard, where like one season is a story, they would not have been able to do that.
I mean, I get why people think these brands are so fragile, and any variation will lead to disastrous results, because that's the social media world we live in, where people are constantly, and yet what Star Trek I hope shows is like, no, we can have a really dark Batman and we can have a fun Batman, and it's fine. Like, it's okay. We'll accept all of these if you do them well,
Right.
So we split up the money, and now we've got Spock and Kirk, and we have the problem of how are we going to find some whales? And while Spock goes on a very, very logical explanation of the deductive reasoning he's going to use, Kirk sees a sign for 2 humpback whales on a bus.
I think we'll find what we're looking for at the Station Institute in Sausalito. A pair of humpback whales named George and Gracie.
How do you know this?
Simple logic.
And then they get on a bus, and they get off a bus, and we hear,
What does it mean, exact change?
These are all fun bits. Cut to, Sulu, Bones, and Scotty walking through Chinatown, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to get the information they need to build this tank. And as they're trying to figure out how they're going to find the resources they need, they walk in front of a giant yellow wall that says, "Can't find it? Try Pacific Bell Yellow Pages. Let your fingers do the walking."
And walking out the door of that building is an Asian family.
Yeah.
Well, John, you asked a question a few minutes ago. Did George Takei have anything to do with Sulu being from San Francisco? Well, I think this might answer the question, because what was supposed to happen in this scene was that Sulu, our Sulu, was going to meet one of his great ancestors, and the child of the family that walked out the door in this scene. He was going to engage with them and discover that the kid was one of his ancestors.
Wow.
And the scene was written, and they were going to shoot the scene, but the young actor or day player was not a professional actor, and they were having problems with him. He was nervous, and they couldn't get him to calm down, and the clock was ticking, and they had to move on.
Damn.
And they did not shoot the scene, and George Takei was heartbroken.
I bet.
Man.
That's a bummer.
That's a drag.
Like
That's
you said,
a drag.
Steve, he only gets so much to do, him and Uhura and others. And so it's like, if you get a scene written for you want to make sure it gets in there. It's a shame. It's such a shame.
It really is. It would have been really nice to see.
Can you imagine? Poor guy. He didn't really get his great shakes, Sulu, until Star Trek VI when he got the Excelsior.
Yeah.
Finally, on this, like the last movie. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. That would have been a great, great, great moment for Sulu and George Takei.
So this is a classic fish out of water movie, and the fun of a fish out of water movie is watching people try to navigate a world that we totally understand, but they don't understand.
Right.
And what occurred to me watching it this time that was so funny, I was like, oh, I think people today, young people today in particular, they're closer to the 23rd century. If you sent them back to 1986 San Francisco and said, figure it out, like find your way around, they're like, well, how would I don't have a phone to tell me where to go.
Yeah, this
They'd
is
be
the
lost.
perception. You're so correct, Steve. This is the perception. Technology has advanced so much, and we look at young people who can master stuff that we have trouble mastering. We go, my God, they're getting so smart. They're so quick to this stuff. It's just the tools that are available to them, right? Our parents felt the same way. They were watching us mess around with VCRs or video game systems, right?
Atari.
Like, what the hell? But if you drop them back in the 1980s, some of them might not be able to navigate their world without that kind of assistance. So yes, they're smart enough to use that equipment, but they're not smart enough necessarily to be without that equipment. And so that's the thing that's very interesting when you look at the juxtaposition of that. So you make a great observation there, Steve.
So then we got to Uhura and Czechov, who've also figured out to look in the yellow pages. And they're looking for nuclear vessels and government organizations. We have set this up. I think we started setting up this joke in 1967, whenever Chekhov's first episode was on Star Trek, because him walking up to a cop, and we feel it before it's happening. Like you're like, oh no, he's going to ask him, and he says,
"Excuse me, sir. Can you direct me to the naval base in Alameda? It's where they keep the nuclear vessels."
And the cop is just looking at him,
Just
total
staring at him.
straight face,
So
like
great.
a Russian in the 1986 Ronald Reagan's 1986 is asking a cop, "Can you tell me where the nuclear vessels are?" Nuclear vessels, and no response. And by the way, to answer your question, there's a two-part answer to that, Steve. The first episode that we saw Czechov in was A Mock Time, which was the second season premiere episode, which aired on September 15th, 1967. But the first time we saw Czechov in production order was when he was on the bridge at Spock Station in Catspaw.
well, and I know that for Roddenberry, what is the ultimate example of the point of view, the philosophy of Star Trek is like, hey, we're going to have a Russian on the bridge.
Yep.
That's how far things have gone. And to me, that's now full circle because we brought a Russian back to the Cold War asking for the nuclear vessels.
Yeah.
So all this is going on. They're asking passersby, like, "Can you? Where's the nuclear vessels and Alameda?" And so that these extras were supposed to walk by and not say anything. They were just supposed to maybe give a reaction, but keep going.
Oh.
Well, one of the extras actually said,
"Ooh, I don't know if I know the answer to that. I think it's across the bay in Alameda."
That's what I said, Alameda. I know
But where is Alameda?
which is funny. But what I didn't realize is that extra was not supposed to say anything.
Oh, wow.
But because she did give an answer, she wound up getting her SAG card.
Oh.
Because she now had a speaking part in a feature film. But Nimoy thought the scene was so funny, especially Walter Koenig's ad-libbed reaction. "Yes, Alameda. Yes, that's what I said. I know that." That he kept it all in, and it was the scene was all the better for it.
Wow. Yeah.
We cut from there to another hilarious scene. We're on a bus going over the Golden Gate Bridge. Kirk and Spock sitting there, and there is the apotheosis of punk rockers, the perfect punk rocker, listening to the perfect, violent, horrible punk rock song, and the looks with the passengers who all want this guy to quiet down.
Excuse me. Would you mind stopping that noise?
And this punk rocker makes the mistake of flipping off Admiral Kirk.
Imagine, but you know what? Do you think Kirk knows what he just did? You think Kirk knows that expression?
That's a good question.
I'm guessing he doesn't. But the punk rocker is played by Kirk Thatcher. His name is actually Kirk, and he was the associate producer working on Star Trek IV, and he pitched Nimoy the scene and offered to write the song that goes with it.
Oh, wow.
And, because he was an associate producer, he had brought it up to Nimoy, he pitched it to Nimoy, but then as, things got going, production and filming, he didn't bring it up again because, he's just an associate producer. He doesn't want to be a pain in the ass to the director who happens to be Leonard Nimoy. But then Nimoy turned to him one day and said, "Hey, that idea, yeah, do it." So he wrote the song, and there it is. "I Hate You." And I love the part of the song where it's because I don't like you, and then you hear, and I say screw you. That's so funny.
And what happens is Spock reaches over, and we have the famous Spock neck pinch.
Love it. The
Oh,
FSMP.
And he falls right on the radio, which is perfect.
And everyone applauds.
You know why? Because generations may change, but those moments constantly live. Like somebody blasting their music as they're driving by in their car or in their apartment or all that kind of stuff. You see it all the time. It still happens. Or they're on the phone in a public place in like Panera having a really loud conversation instead of going outside or something. You see it all the time.
Yeah, grumpy Steve Morris will tell you there is nothing that I find more irritating than the speakerphone talking to your phone on speakerphone in a restaurant.
Grumpy John Roca agrees with you. Grumpy John Roca agrees with you.
Oh, my God. You want to have a conversation? Please leave the restaurant. And there's these things called headphones. And there's all these ways, so I don't have to hear your whole conversation.
And my God. I was at the airport the other day when I was, stuck overnight in New York.
Yeah.
And this guy is talking on his cell phone on speaker. And I mean, because he's on speaker, I guess he has the right to speak louder because he's talking on a speaker.
Right.
And I just thought to myself, will you just hold the phone up to your thing and just have a conversation? Like, I was like, this pet peeve, baby, pet peeve.
Admiral, may I ask you a question?
Spock, don't call me Admiral. You used to call me Jim. Don't you remember Jim?
And the deadpan look from Nimoy.
And he just goes, what's your question?
And I got to say, I mean, we've seen it in, City on the Edge of Forever. We've seen it in so many places. I really think I'm putting a flag down right here and saying that Shatner and Nimoy could have been a great comedy duo in the classic Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy. Like, I think they're that much fun together, or at least maybe Hope and Bing Crosby, maybe at that level.
That's what
they are hilarious. Remember in Trouble with Tribbles when Barris, you have the authority to divert a starship, with a false distress call, and then Niels Barris says, "Mr. Barris is the head of all this stuff," and he goes on, and then Spock turns to Kirk and he goes, "And that gives him the authority." And Kirk just goes, "Oh." They're hilarious together, but they were always like, even when they first started doing those comic moments together, they were great at it because they were so perfect in these roles, whether it was drama or comedy.
Your use of language has altered since our arrival. It is currently laced with, shall I say, more colorful metaphors. Double dumbass on you, and so forth.
You mean the profanity?
Yes.
That's simply the way they talk here.
I just love this dialogue.
You'll find it in all the literature of the period.
For example?
Well, the collected works of Jacqueline Suzanne. The novels are Harold Robbins.
The Giants.
Harold Robbins. Oh, man.
And now we arrive at the Cetacean Institute in Sausalito, which, of course, is not in Sausalito. This is at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which I highly recommend everyone visit. It is a fantastic aquarium if you're ever on the central coast of California.
And this is where we meet Dr. Gillian Taylor, played by Catherine Hicks. Catherine Hicks is an Emmy nominee for playing Marilyn Monroe in the 1981 TV movie Marilyn, the Untold Story. She was also in movies like Peggy Sue Got Married, Child's Play, the very first Child's Play, which still holds up really good. Also the movie She's Out of Control with Tony Danza. On TV, she was on the soap opera Ryan's Hope, and she was also in the TV series Seventh Heaven.
Yes.
So this is interesting. So originally, when Star Trek IV was written, the sort of guest of the movie was not going to be Catherine Hicks as Gillian Taylor.
Oh.
That character was supposed to be played by Eddie Murphy.
What?
Yes. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy is a big Star Trek fan.
Oh, really?
Eddie Murphy had done a couple of big hits for Paramount Pictures, Trading Places and Beverly Hills Cop. Star Trek was also a Paramount property. Yeah. So they thought, and especially after Eddie Murphy expressed interest to be in a Star Trek movie, he was going to play a college professor who is very philosophical and teaches his students about whale song. So that's how he knows about whale song.
Wow.
But when the first draft of the script came to light, Eddie Murphy didn't really like the script. So he went off and made The Golden Child instead. Not that that was really a smart move.
Yeah.
But I, for one, am glad that Eddie Murphy did not do Star Trek 4 because I feel like it would have turned out like when Richard Pryor did Superman 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would have been like an Eddie Murphy movie with guest starring the crew of the Enterprise. So I'm glad that did not happen.
I feel the same way. And I think like, because it's also, I mean, by the time Pryor does Superman 3, he is on the downward direction of his career.
Right.
This is peak Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
You know, and so like, I don't know that he's containable as a supporting player. I don't know how it could work.
I don't think Shatner would have stood for it at all because he would have taken the spotlight away from Shatner.
Good
and
point.
Back and forth.
Good
No,
point.
listen, I don't want to get blocked again by Mr. Shatner, but like, you know, if we could get double blocked. He likes to be the center of attention in the scenes that he's in. And so he doesn't play ensemble characters for a reason. And so and if it's his show like Star Trek, I don't think he would have liked being one-upped by Eddie. Because the thing is, Nimoy plays underneath Shatner, which is why the humor works in the back and forth.
Right.
He never tries to take the spotlight away from him. And Shatner cedes moments to Nimoy, which of course great actors do. They understand when they're on the level with somebody. And so you see that, but Eddie would have tried to own the scene at that time. And I don't know if Shatner would have rolled with that quite as strongly. You know?
I don't think, even though Nimoy is directing the movie, I don't even think he would have really been like that either. But Catherine Hicks had to audition 4 times.
Oof.
And then William Shatner personally approved of Hicks after Nimoy brought her over to meet him, along with another actress who I don't know. Shatner gave the approval to Catherine Hicks, saying she was, quote, spunky. She is spunky.
She is. I think she hits the perfect tone for what this is required for this movie. You know?
Agreed.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, like any other actress might be going too far with some of her emotional reactions about the whales and like, what the hell are you doing? And, you know, all of that stuff. But there's such authenticity when she tones it down that you're like, okay, this is like when she's having the scene with Shatner in the dinner, which we'll get to. That's a much more relaxed back and forth. So she does, as you said, Steve, a really nice mix of the more emotional moments combined with the more relaxed and calmer moments that give her a much more fuller life in the film, which is why we like her so much by the end of the movie. And it's curious. She's the second Seventh Heaven series regular to be in a movie, right? I know we don't want to mention Mr. Collins, but he's in the first movie. So, you know, it's an interesting situation.
That's separating the art from the artist.
So, and what we get as we're outside the aquarium and then as we're heading in is just, you know, a lot of exposition about whales that I think is entertaining, but they're not fish. They're warm-blooded. They're mammals. They are under threat. They don't attack people. Most of them don't have any teeth. And then we have this moment.
Unfortunately, their principal enemy is far, far more aggressive.
You mean man?
To put it mildly.
And I just want to point out, it's true in every class I've ever taught. It's true on every tour I've ever been on. There's always that one person who wants to show off and go like, I know stuff too. Let me be the smart one in the class or in the tour. And there's also usually one weirdo. That is the one person who's going to say some weird stuff that the tour guide's going to have to go like, I don't know how to deal with that. And one know-it-all. I just wanted to point that out. And we hear about all the ways that whales have been hunted.
100 years ago, using hand-thrown harpoons, man did plenty of damage. But that is nothing compared to what he has achieved in this century.
It occurred to me, just as you're saying all that, you know, even though I've seen the movie a million times, you know, and here's a really special movie because you don't have a villain like Commander Crew. You don't have a villain like Khan or even V'ger. The villain here is man.
Yeah.
You know, man in a general sense. And, you know, we don't even know if the probe is good or bad. I mean, I guess technically it's bad because it's like destroying the everything that comes across its path, but it's just trying to, communicate. And that's something that we always saw in Star Trek as a key element to figuring stuff out. But the fact that you don't have a villain, and yet here's a film that, even watching it today and watching the scene with the B-roll of the slaughter of the whales, it's still upsetting to watch. And Star Trek was always great when it held a mirror up to society. And I think this movie does that for 1986, and I think it does it for 2025, probably even more now. And all that exposition, Steve, that you're talking about, sure, it's definitely exposition, but it's done in a good way because it's an instructor, talking to a tour group, and it's educational. I mean, like, this movie really has a lot going on, and it does it all perfectly.
What's interesting to me is that this is a political position. This is protecting the environment political position. And I think what's interesting is that there are some political things where immediately, particularly in our world today, it's going to polarize people. Yeah. If you say this, you're just like, aha, that's a conservative movie or that's a liberal movie, and that's it. And I think what this movie does really well is that it humanizes the whales. It essentially anthropomorphizes them. And so it ceases to feel like this is a political pro-environment stance. This is a pro-George and Gracie stance. You know, we like them,
Good point. Giving them names. And then even later, when the guy who comes out to speak to her is like, well, we don't even know if they have that intelligence, having her kind of snap at him and walk away, and he's left in close-up for a little bit. It's just a showcasing of that attitude, that that attitude and that mentality is not the right mentality when dealing with creatures like this.
Yeah.
So that was really great.
Yeah. I still get like pissed off at, him for saying, oh, we don't even know if they're intelligent. It's like saying, oh, my dog or my cat or any animal,
right?
But those humpback whales look so good. They really, really look amazing. And 95% of the time that you see the whales in the film, 95% of the time, the footage is animatronic. Yet it was convincing. It was so convincing that when the movie first came out in November of 1986, animal rights activists were in an uproar, thinking that real whales were used and had their personal space invaded in the process, and that was not the case.
To hunt a species to extinction is not logical.
Whoever said the human race was logical?
Which is exactly what Spock and his mom were talking about before.
Right.
That's where, and there it was used as one of our charms because it was humans not being logical that saved Spock's life. And now it's humans not being logical that is killing the whales,
Yeah. The commonality, though, is that, right, it's like both selfish pursuits. One just selfishly in a good way and another selfishly in a bad way. One to feed one to line their pockets and one to save their friend.
And then, as you said, we're seeing I think I agree with you, Scott. I think the animatronic whales and everything they did is totally convincing to me.
Yep.
They are mature humpbacks, weighing 45,000 pounds each. They wandered into San Francisco Bay as calves and were brought here. We call them George and Gracie.
And I find this because there's this thing about our connection to history, which is that at the time that this movie came out, Oh God had just come out. We knew who George Burns was. And so there was enough people in the audience who knew that George and Gracie referred to George Burns and Gracie Allen to get a laugh.
Yep.
Today, there wouldn't be enough people that would know what that reference is,
Yeah.
Crickets, buddy. There'd be crickets.
Yeah. And this was shot like at the tank, and it really looks exactly like the back of the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which doesn't have a big tank there. But this is not there. This, I believe, we're at Paramount, where they've built a replica of it to create this tank.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Very, very cool.
And then we're inside the aquarium looking at a screen where we're seeing the whales swimming in this giant underwater. And this, I believe, shot at ILM. And the thing about it that I find interesting is we had a bunch of extras get off a bus in front of the actual Monterey Bay Aquarium. Right. Then we took them to a set. Then we took them to a tank built at Paramount, and then we were in front of another tank that's a screen that's at ILM. And I'm like, and what they had to do, if you got that extra gig, you were on call for a while, and they flew you all over the state of California to continue to be an extra.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Good money those days. Good money those days.
Yeah. Well, for that one, definitely.
Insane, yeah.
And this is where we hear that they're going to have to say goodbye to them.
Despite all that they are teaching us, we have to return George and Gracie to the open sea.
Why is that?
Well, for one thing, we simply don't have enough money to keep feeding them 2 tons of shrimp per day.
How soon?
Soon.
And this is where you start to see the real emotion she feels towards these animals.
It's too bad, too, because they're really quite friendly, as you could see. I've grown quite attached to them.
I was going to save this observation for a scene later on in the film.
Yeah.
But seeing how passionate Jillian is about the whales and the way she is such a commanding presence, but she's really a lovely person. And thinking back to the female guest stars who had appeared, whether it's, B.B. Bash's Carol Marcus in Trek 2, or any one of the female guest stars in the original series, who does Jillian closely remind you of?
Yeah, that's a great question.
All right. I know I'm going to take a big swing here on this, fellas. But the way this relationship kind of plays out, I wonder if Kirk, as he gets to know her better, if she reminds him of Edith Keeler a little bit.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's more connections to, City on the Edge of Forever than there is to any other episode of Star Trek. So I see that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, certainly in the, visionary, positive kind of thing.
Passionate, too.
Passionate.
Yeah.
There's also Carol Marcus,
Absolutely Carol Marcus. But Carol Marcus was somebody he had a history with already.
Right.
In terms of meeting someone for the first time.
Yeah.
And let's just say, City on the Edge of Forever played out a little differently. And Kirk was able to bring Edith back through the Guardian of Forever into the 23rd century. Don't you see Edith Keeler being the kind of forward-thinking idealist that would, go on a science ship and explore the galaxy like Jillian does at the end of this movie?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they never have that moment where it's like in just such a short period of time, they're able to organically establish that they are soulmates. But the chemistry between Catherine Hicks and William Shatner is so excellent, as we will continue to see in various scenes throughout the film.
Yeah.
And even up until the end, when there might be a moment where they cross the line, but don't, and the movie is all the better for it.
Yeah.
But it took me, almost 40 years for me to see the connection between Jillian and Edith Keeler.
Yeah, I think that's a great comparison. No, that's a fantastic comparison, Scott. I could totally see that. And that may be, and in another writer who's maybe more aware of canon, another screenwriter maybe adds a moment or two with him and Spock kind of seeing, well, she must remind you of Edith or something. Like they could reference that episode, right, in some way.
Oh my God.
I think I
would have lost my shit if that happened.
Right. Yeah.
But if they did that, because this is, and you brought it up here, so we might as well, this is a thing we'll, I think, talk about a couple of times, is like the fact that they didn't actually make any overt attraction or sexual chemistry between the two of them, I think is so important. I mean, there's a hint of an attraction in the sense of, I like this person.
Yes.
But there isn't, and Scott, it's just as you say, they get real close to saying there's attraction, but they don't go over that line. And if we had him referenced Edith Keeler, that is, the love of Kirk's life. I mean, that is a huge, and it would have taken the movie in this other direction that I'm glad we didn't go into.
I agree with you. Yeah. We're going to talk about it at the end, but I think she's one of the rare person that turns him down. Like there is, I think he's like, he makes that move to kind of maybe, and she's the one that goes, no, we're good.
I love that twist, the turn of the cheek. See around the galaxy. Oh, so great.
But right now we're talking about whale song and that we don't understand it, and that, they do it we know they're communicating. We don't know what they're communicating. As she's talking about whale song, Kirk is looking through the glass at these whales, and there is Spock singing with the whales. And I love Kirk just doesn't even know what to do in the situation.
Maybe he's singing to that man.
And that is when she sees him.
What the hell?
That's what I'm saying. She has these big reactions to things, and normally would be comical, but Catherine makes them work. It's so good.
We're back outside where Spock is getting dressed. And I just want to say, this person would be arrested. Like, there isn't there's no way he's getting out of this.
I thought about that.
All right, who the hell are you? What were you doing in there?
And I love Kirk takes her side and goes,
Yeah, speak up, though.
Attempting the hell to communicate.
Communicate? Communicate what? You have no right to be here.
That's when Spock turns to Kirk and says,
Admiral, if we were to assume that these whales are ours to do with as we please, we would be as guilty as those who caused their extinction.
So smart. So smart writing. Like, you don't even see, you're just like caught up in completing the mission when you're watching this the first time, right? The fact that it takes Spock to say, well, we can't take them out of this environment and put them in another environment to serve our needs. We know better than these people who hunt them down. You're like, oh, damn. You just take a moment back in your theater seat and like, yeah, that actually makes sense. Jesus, why didn't I think of that? And I thought that was genius writing for to have that moment.
And this is the same spot. The writers clearly understood Spock, because this is the same Spock that tried to talk Kirk into showing mercy to the Gorn, mercy to the Horta, mercy to the companion.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it is very clear that Nimoy, the director, directed Nimoy, the actor, to emphasize the word caused just a little bit more, so that when it gets referenced later on, we would have made sure that we hear it,
Your friend was messing up my tanks and messing up my whales.
They like you very much, but they are not the hell your whales.
They told you that.
The hell they did.
That's so great. Perfect. Because he's using the word hell out of context a little bit, but then when he finally says the hell they did, it's perfect.
Yeah. And then we are walking near the Golden Gate Bridge, right near Fort Point. This is literally 150 yards from where Kim Novak throws herself into the bay in Virgo.
Right.
Oh,
that's where we are.
I love this scene of Kirk and Spock walking along Marina Boulevard with the Golden Gate Bridge behind. You hear the seagulls going. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Just a timeless look at San Francisco that could have been shot for Vertigo, could have been shot for Star Trek 4, could have been shot today.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the things about it, they talk about them still being in Sausalito and needing to get back to San Francisco, but they are already in San Francisco. The street is in San Francisco.
They're in the city.
Yeah, they're in the city. Exact. Well said. You sounded like a local, Scott.
Yes.
Good job. And then the next thing they get into is that Spock doesn't always have to tell the truth. He could exaggerate, which is a perfect reference to what great moment in what great Star Trek movie, Scott?
Oh, of course, Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. You lied. I exaggerated.
So the old Spock found a way around the Vulcan rule of not lying.
Right.
And so, that's it's the old Spock that Kirk is trying to connect with here,
You could exaggerate.
Exaggerate?
Exaggerate. You've done it before. Can't you remember?
The hell I can't.
And now we're back with Jillian in this scene you guys referenced before, because now we have Bob, who's played by Scott Devaney, show up. We talk a little bit about the crazy guy that jumped in the water and the fact that these whales are going to go away.
We can't keep them here without risking their lives. We can't let them go without taking the same chance.
I know.
And besides, we're not talking about human beings here. It's never been proven their intelligence is in any way...
Oh, come on, Bob. I don't know about you, but my compassion for someone is not limited to my estimate of their intelligence.
Yeah. Great line. Great comeback. Yeah. Great comeback.
I will just leave this thought here, and we don't need to discuss it.
Okay.
We have no clear standards that make any sense about which animals are cool to kill and which animals are not cool to kill.
Right.
It's not based on intelligence. It's not based on cute. It's not based on there are intelligent animals we kill and dumb animals we don't want to kill. Like it isn't there. There is no standard. It is just culturally what we think is okay and what we think isn't okay. Uhura and Czechov are on the shore in Alameda, although I think they're actually in San Diego, and they call up Kirk.
Team leader, this is Team 2. Come in, please.
This moment is so great. It brought a tear to my eye every time. I don't know if it does for you guys, but we hear.
We have found the nuclear vessel.
Well done, Team 2.
And Admiral, it is the Enterprise.
It's the Enterprise. First of all, it's not the Enterprise. It's actually the USS Ranger, CV-61. In 1993, the Ranger was actually decommissioned after 36 years of service. But regardless of what ship it really is, that moment, because Czechov says, an admiral, and he looks at Uhura, and he says, it is the Enterprise. And then back at Marina Boulevard, Kirk and Spock look at each other, just they don't have to say anything. They don't have to say anything. The name is all that matters. That the Enterprise, we had to kill her off. In Star Trek II, Spock died saving the Enterprise. Yeah. In Star Trek III, the Enterprise returned the favor. And now, in her own way, the Enterprise is returning the favor again.
It's a little bit later, and as they're still walking along the marina, there Jillian drives up.
Came all the way down here just to jump in and swim with the kiddies, huh?
Very little point in my trying to explain.
Well, yeah, I'll buy that. What about him?
Him? He's harmless. Back in the 60s, he was part of the free speech movement at Berkeley. I think he did a little too much LDS.
I love it.
And she offers foolishly, like a crazy dude jumps in a tank with your whales, and now you're like, yeah, I'm gonna take these two guys in my truck with me. It sounds like a great plan. And now we get in just the timing with these people is just so great.
So, you were at Berkeley?
I was not.
Memory problems too.
And I love too.
What about you? Where are you from?
Iowa.
Oh, landlubber.
This is the first time we've heard that, and he mentioned that where Kirk is from. We never find out what city, although there is a city in Iowa that laid the claim that they're the actual birthplace. But we just know that Kirk is from Iowa, and I think that's pretty cool. That we San Francisco. I was born there for Sulu. We find out that Kirk is from Iowa. There is a lot to the Star Trek IV screenplay, and it just all feels so organic.
You know what never occurred to me till this moment is that the fundamental difference between the way Star Trek has structured the universe and a galaxy long time ago and far, far away is it's the very first lines of Star Wars says, this is not us.
Yeah.
This isn't connected to us. This is far, far away and this completely other thing. And what Star Trek is saying is, I was born in Iowa. I work in space. Right. Like it's saying a completely different message about the world.
It really is. That's what separates the men from the boys.
And now Kirk asks what's going to happen to the whales. And immediately she gets emotional.
They're going to have to take their chances.
What does that mean exactly, take their chances?
It means that they will be at risk from whale hunters the same as the rest of the humpbacks. What did you mean when you said all that stuff back at the Institute about extinction?
Spock starts to talk, and then Kirk interrupts because he doesn't want Spock to say the wrong thing.
Oh, that's not what he said, farm boy. Admiral, if we were to assume those whales are ours to do with as we pleased, we would be as guilty as those who caused, past tense, their extinction. I have a photographic memory. I see words.
This is another instance where, this is unlike any other woman, certainly, that Kirk has ever met in his century, certainly.
Yeah.
And it just made me think, okay, great. There's a little bit of a difference in the delivery, a little bit of a difference in the interaction that they have, but there is really a strong admiration from Admiral Kirk that he has for her because she She's very intelligent,
Yes.
very forward thinking, very compassionate, the kind of compassion that the 20th century or the 21st century doesn't have enough of. But that optimism that I think that in another conversation, Kirk would have said about Gillian Taylor, I find her most uncommon, Mr. Spock.
And the fact that she calls Spock and Kirk on this, you know what? You're totally persuading me even more, because you know what I'd never connected to me until this moment is what is our first moment with Edith Keeler is that she finds them, they've stolen clothes, she catches them in lies, and then she says, and then she quotes, she says, Captain, even when he doesn't call you it, he does. Which is exactly what Jillian is doing here.
Right.
That is exactly, when she goes, Captain, even when he doesn't say it, he does. Yeah. And you have, Jillian here is saying, I have a photographic memory, Admiral. I'm telling you, there are more parallels between Edith Keeler and Gillian Taylor. Certainly meets the eye or the ear. And it took 40 years for me to see that.
I kind of resisted it when you said it at first, but I'm really definitely coming around. The big difference, I think, it's just the energy is so different. Is that Edith Keeler has this kind of heavy, old school romantic, and Jillian is sort of more fun and a little more flighty, and it's just a very different kind of thing. Yeah. But after confirming that there was no dipshit stuff going on, which I think is funny, Spock, after a long pause, says,
Gracie is pregnant.
And just lands on the brakes. And this freaks her out because nobody knows that.
I can tell you that we're not in the military, and we intend no harm towards the whales.
Then what do you
In fact, we may be able to help you in ways that, frankly, you couldn't possibly imagine.
Or believe, I'll bet.
Very likely.
Yeah. Man, my note is so funny. My note here is, man, Spock is funny. He's just so funny.
I have a hunch that we'd all be a lot happier discussing this over dinner.
Mac Daddy Mofo constantly sees the openings like, oh, well, we can discuss it over dinner. Blah, blah, blah.
This moment.
You guys like Italian?
No.
Yes.
Yeah,
no. Yes.
No.
Yes. I love Italian. And so do you.
Yes.
I mean,
great line.
Yeah,
that's they are perfect in this moment.
I mean, just the quick one you didn't mention. He's like, which I don't know if you're going to mention, but it's like, you're not catching us at our best, and that much is certain. Like just little moments that pepper throughout, Steve, as you were mentioning, that's just so great.
And then we cut from there to Plexicorp.
Plexicorp.
Oh yeah,
great scene. Great scene.
Where we have Bones and Dr. Nicholas, which is Alex Henteloff in this scene.
Alex Henteloff, known for doing a lot of TV over those years. TV shows like Mannix, Kung Fu, The Streets of San Francisco, Barney Miller. I feel like that's a credit listing that I would have said in any one of the guest stars from when we were doing the original series on Enterprise incidents, because those are a lot of the same shows. But this scene is so great, holds up so well, and just goes to show you that there was a lot of love to go around, especially in Star Trek 4, with having everyone given their moment to shine, except for George Takei.
I think something we talked a lot about on the show is that when you have to, as an actor, lie or play a part, there's the question of, well, how good are you at doing this?
Right.
And Kirk has always been really good at playing a part when he has to play a part. Scotty is not quite as good.
Right.
And Bones is sort of like, you can see that Bones is having fun playing this part. It's not serious. You know what I mean? Which is part of what makes it so fun. Like the moment where
I explained that you'd come all the way here from Edinburgh on appointment, but they don't seem to know anything about it. Don't know anything about it? I find it hard to believe that I've come millions of miles. Thousands of miles.
Thousands
of miles on an invited tour.
That is so. And by the way, totally goes over the head of everybody else in the room, including Dr. Nichols.
Well, and then that they call over a forklift, and now Scotty is riding on the forklift to get his tour. I mean, it's all very, very fun.
Look, when he calls him his assistant, and he goes, "Don't bury yourself
in the parts."
So great. And the self-satisfied grin, like a cat that's eaten too many mice, on Scotty's face.
Right.
Great. Yeah.
Because they're finally getting their scene with no Nimoy or Shatner around at all. Yeah. They can just do their thing. And then we cut to Sulu at a helicopter.
Good looking ship. Huey 204, isn't it?
Right on. You fly?
Oh, here and there.
I love this version of Sulu, and I just wish that we had more of cool pilot Sulu. You know,
he is imperious. Like just the cape, the hands on the hips. Like there's a thing where he gets to like really shine. You know, and I agree with you, Steve. It's a great sequence of scenes for him to really enjoy him kind of breaking out from the rest of the cast a little bit. So good.
I flew something similar back in my academy days.
All right. And this must be old stuff to you.
Old? Yes, but interesting.
I'm totally not going to put this in, but and I know that George Takei has said, his version of Sulu is not actually a gay man, but in my mind, Sulu totally hooked up with this pilot guy.
Wow, really?
If they shot that would be organic.
Yep.
Sure, why not?
May I ask you a few questions? Do you like gladiator films? Oh man!
Back at the polymer company.
I must say, Professor, your knowledge of engineering is most impressive.
Yes, back home we call him the miracle worker.
Indeed.
Oh, see, that's great for the fans.
And then he asked them a question about like how much pressure can something stand? How much water pressure can something stand? And he goes, "Oh, that's easy, 6 inches. We carry stuff that big in stock." It's nice that this dude could do that math in his head, but that's important information for these whales.
Just suppose I were to show you a way to manufacture a wall that would do the same job, but be only 1 inch thick. Would that be worth something to you, eh?
You're joking.
Perhaps the professor could use your computer.
And then he sits down in front of I had to look up what it was. This is a Mac Plus. This had just come out that year.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable. Cutting edge technology, baby.
I got my first computer maybe 6 months after this movie came out, which was a Mac 512K. And so, him sitting down to the computer at this moment in the mid 80s is huge.
Computer.
Yeah.
And he grabs that mouse.
Hello, computer.
This moment has got to be Jimmy Doohan's favorite moment of Star Trek. It has to be.
It's so he's having so much fun. It's just you could tell. And I love McCoy directs him to the keyboard. He goes, "Oh, the keyboard, how quaint!" Cracks his knuckles, and then one fingers it, and somehow manages on this mid 80s Mac to bring up all these graphics and programs. And it's like, wow, it's pretty amazing what he can do with that computer.
I mean, it's such a great scene when he it's like the slow roll when he starts going and then the screens go like rapidly, but you're like, what is happening? It's so funny and so perfect.
Here's my question though, guys.
Yeah.
While all this is going on, I've been wanting to ask this question to somebody who has seen this film over these last, almost 40 years now, 39 years. Who's Madeline?
I agree with you.
The woman that barges in?
Yes. Why is she barging in?
Right.
What is she going to do? And why was he like, not now, Madeline?
I think clearly she's a Borg spy sent to infiltrate the past of the United States and preventing Kirk from saving the Federation so that the Federation cannot destroy the Borg a century later. That's obviously
what it was.
Yeah, obviously.
I love it because we never see her again, right? So like it's such a great moment.
But was she just like going in to talk business?
Yeah, I think she's the secretary that keeps or his assistant that keeps him on point. And she was probably coming in to be like, well, you've got a next appointment at this time, or there's a backup in the factory or whatever, I'm sure. And he's like, not now, Madeline. So it just is a perfect kind of 80s interruption thing.
Yeah, I've always seen it as the receptionist with some paperwork for him to sign or something.
Right.
Because needless to see, Dr. Nicholas is very, very excited by this stuff. And then McCoy pulls Scotty aside and says,
You realize, of course, that we give him the formula. We're altering the future.
What? How do we know he didn't invent the thing?
But at the look on McCoy's face, he goes, that just says like, yeah, I guess that's a good point.
So this is, again, we're not going to spend time on this. There is no movie in which time travel makes sense. It's always going to just fall apart in your brain the more you think about it. But I still think Star Trek might be the worst. And I think this and the glasses moment are part of what I love the moments. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
But this idea, because remember, McCoy is the guy who went back in time and destroyed the future in City on the Edge of Forever.
Right.
A tiny alteration can have huge consequences. That's Star Trek time travel rules as established in the original series. And now that's our new rules are sort of like, do whatever you want, because that's probably just what happened. You know?
Right. You're just, you're adjusting the laws of the universe to fit a screenplay for a Star Trek movie.
Exactly.
You know, I could take those whales somewhere where they'd never be hunted.
You can't even get yourself from Sausalito to San Francisco without a lift.
All right. Let me just say the chemistry between the two of them in this scene is so good.
Yeah.
And she is just giving it back to him. She is not falling for his charms. She is very, very protective of the whales.
Yeah.
She is very, very concerned and emotional about the whales. I just feel like Kirk has never met anyone like Gillian Taylor before. Not in any century, not in any planet. And this has to be a woman who has impressed him in a way that hasn't happened, since New York City in 1930.
There you go.
Yeah.
Where could you take them? My whales? Where could you take them where they'd be safe?
Well, it's not so much a matter of a place as of a time.
One of the interesting things I find about the scene is how quickly Kirk kind of makes the decision he's going to tell her the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I've gone back and forth about it, but I kind of go now, it's like, well, that's what Kirk always does. He'll make a bold move that is risky and could risk everything, and he'll just aggressively go for it. And that's what he's doing here.
He always trusts his gut. And in this moment, he senses he can trust her. And so he's doing it. Right, exactly.
Well, the time would have to be right now.
Why right now?
Let's just say that no humpback born in captivity has ever survived. The problem is that they won't be that much safer at sea because of all the hunting this time of year.
I think he is making progress partially because she's so emotional about what's going to happen with the whales. And he might be the one glimmer of hope. And he's starting to really connect on that when his communicator beeps.
What is that?
What's wrong?
You have a pocket pager.
And then he pulls out his communicator and says,
What is it? I thought I told you never to call me.
So great.
What also doesn't play today is that it's just the most normal thing in the world that we all have our communicators everywhere we go.
Yeah.
That's just normal. That was not normal in the mid 80s. My parents' friend, Michael Silberstein, had a car phone in 1989. And it was like a briefcase. You know what I mean? That was the first one I saw. Nobody was in a restaurant and got a call. That's crazy.
Now it's like everyone, can get interrupted at any time with any text alert, any phone, vibrate even.
Yep.
But back in 86, it was uncommon to get a beeping sound from a device while you were sitting having dinner.
We just thought you'd like to know. We're beaming them in now.
All right. Tell them phasers on stun. Good luck, Kirk out.
And now she's like, okay, what the hell is going on?
Who are you?
Who do you think I am?
Don't tell me. You're from outer space.
No, I'm from Iowa. I only work in outer space.
Great line.
Yep.
And I love how she says, I knew outer space was going to come into this at some point.
Yeah. Right. And then he tells her the truth, that he's from the 23rd century, that he wants to get a couple of humpback whales.
When are those whales being released?
Your friend was right. Gracie's not only pregnant, she is very pregnant. And at noon tomorrow, in what is sure to be a media circus, the whales get shipped out.
So that's the answer. And he's like, we got to go. So they grab their pizza to go and head out.
Let me tell you something. I'm here to bring 2 humpbacks into the 23rd century. If I have to, I'll go to the open sea to get them. I'd much rather have yours. It's better for me. Better for you. It's better for them.
You know, when Kirk puts his charisma on you, it's powerful stuff.
Right. I agree. But when she pulls away, Shatner in no way is holding a pizza box correctly if there's a full pizza in that pizza box. Like, it is such an angle. Pizza is just, it's become a burrito by the way he's holding it all wrapped up in itself, which was so, I was just like, the whole time I'm watching this going, how does no one tell him to hold the box out straight? Because if it's a pizza, it's going to all fall into itself. So I just found that to be funny watching it this time around. But the goodbye is really earnest there between them, and he really cares about these. And I think she senses that, but she's not ready yet to fully accept it. But you can see that the ice is thawing a little bit with what he says, you know.
And it is an urgent moment. You know, they are running out of time, and Kirk even says, "I'm out of time. You know, I'll be right here." And then I love how when she's pulling away, you don't see Kirk being back to the bounty. Yeah, you see the light, sort of flicker, and then she screeches the truck to a halt, turns around, and he's gone.
Yeah,
like for a brief moment there, 23rd century was right there with her.
Yeah,
I mean, so 2 things about that. So first is literally the origin of the transporter and the origin of the cloaking device was out of cheapness. Was we don't want to build a shuttlecraft. And so we invent this idea of a transporter. And then we know the transporting effect is expensive. So we want to avoid doing it on camera as much as possible. And so we take that and turn it into an advantage where it's just off camera. And now it's kind of a cool moment and it saved you money. I mean, that's just the best. Back to the pizza. I believe that there is very clear evidence that pizzas, as marvelous as the technology of the 23rd century is, and what an idealized world it is in many ways, I don't think pizza exists. Because I think Shatner's reaction or Kirk's reaction to her ordering the pizza, and then as you said, John, the way he holds that box, clearly the man has never held a pizza.
Never.
I do not think there is pizza in the 23rd century. That is the statement I'm making.
Pizza didn't make it to the 23rd century? That's a shame.
Crime. That is a crime. They have no idea what they're missing.
Seriously.
We don't have any money. Well, we don't. Or pizza dough. Oh, man.
Yeah,
we have literally no dough. we got no cheese.
Boom. Yeah. That is the dad joke. I love it.
There you go. So back on the bridge, Kirk gets a status report, and we basically hear we've had no contact with Czechov and Uhura.
Damn it! Been so lucky. The 2 perfect whales right in our hands. If we don't move quickly, we'll lose them.
In that event, the probabilities are that our mission would fail.
So now Kirk is pissed. Kirk gets pissed. Like, he's been so patient with Spock up to this point because he knows that, Spock came back from the dead and he's like getting his memory back and he's getting his bearings. And, even on the bus, he's like, Jim, remember? And he's like, all right, what's your question? But now, this whole idea of Spock saying, well, our mission would fail, that, Kirk loses his cool.
Our mission? Spock, you're talking about the end of every life on Earth. You're half human. Haven't you got any goddamn feelings about that?
The way he walks off, and I think Scotty and McCoy just like look at each other and like, whoa. And Spock, you could see Spock, like you've brought up a couple times already, John, the more silent reactions that he has is all you need to see that Spock was hurt by that.
I think this is a great moment. And Scott, I'm so glad you're highlighting, and Steve, pausing for this moment, because it's like Nimoy is shooting himself. Yeah. And Nimoy, we know, is a very accomplished actor. And I don't think I'm breaking any news that Nimoy had a lot of confidence in himself, and he had a strong ego. I've seen interviews with him and watched his one-person shows, and so he's very clear about it. So the way you avoid looking like you're having hubris or kissing around is you deliver a genuine, authentic performance. And in the scene here, this is a close-up of him. I love that he looks back at Scotty and Bones, almost a little embarrassed that he got dressed down like this publicly. And then second, I think what he's doing in the moment is thinking about how his mother said this to him earlier in the film. And so the fact that two human beings are telling him, you need to look past your logic or your objectivity and see that there's a bigger thing here. Kirk says, this is the end of all life, not just, on Earth, rather. That's my planet. Imagine if all of Vulcan was going to fucking die. You'd care. And so it's that kind of thing. So, without blatantly saying it, he's saying it. And I think lingering on Spock's reaction, it was very smart. You can tell that there's wheels turning so that later, when he does make a decision about going after the whales, you understand it's an offshoot of what happened here. It's a result of what happened here.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think what you two are bringing up is so important. I've been thinking about this a ton. And as we said, Kirk is the hero of Star Trek, of the original crew, but the biggest story arc is Spock.
Yes.
And I think this moment, along with several other, and they're subtle, but I actually think there is more in Spock's evolution in this movie that happens just in the subtlest way that is critical. And the one thing I'll point out is that when we met Spock in the original series, Spock was, yes, I am half human, but I am all about being Vulcan.
Yeah.
That is my goal. My goal is to not be human. I'm embarrassed by those human parts. I'm pushing down those human parts. I'm going to be full. And that goes all the way to the Culinar in Motion Picture, where he goes, okay, now I'm not fucking around anymore. I'm going to get rid of any little bit of human feeling at all. And then because of the interaction with V'ger, he realizes that's the wrong direction.
Yep.
Right. And then in the next movie, he dies. Yeah. And so this version of Spock isn't doing what that first version of Spock was doing. He isn't going, I'm full Vulcan. I have to do this Vulcan way no matter what. His mom asking how you feel and hitting him with this, the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many and human being illogical. And then his journey here, he is, unlike the Spock we met in the original series, actually open to being human. He is, there's a part of him, and I think in this moment you see it, he's like, oh, I got something wrong. I'm not understanding this human thing. And he looks around, and instead of old Spock going, oh, well, humans bad. I was being totally logical. That's what he would have said in the original series. Right. That was a logical thing to say. Our mission will fail. But he doesn't say that now. He's evolving in a new way that I find really interesting.
Well, yeah. And I wonder if it's connected to the fact that he shared humanity with Bones. Like he chose Bones of all people to give his spirit to. And so I think there are remnants of Bones' humanity that are rumbling around inside Spock as well. And that may have been what allows him to be much more open to it, even though people still have to yell at him to get it, that he's much more open to it and quicker to be open to it, Steve, than he'd been in the series. It's a great point you make.
Fellas, I got to say, to be a lifelong fan of Star Trek, especially TOS, and to get to this point in my life and to see things and hear about things that make me reassess how I look at it. Steve, from the beginning, since we started doing Enterprise incidents, ever since that conversation we had about the naked time and about that scene in the briefing room between Spock and Kirk, which you brought up as kept coming back to that over the course of our deep dives of the original series. And now, John, hearing you talk about like that, well, wait a minute, he did not give his Katra to Kirk, which he would have done clearly, but it was McCoy he gave it to. So since he's been back, yes, of course, he had a life-changing experience, literally, but also the version that he got back probably had remnants of that highly passionate, emotionally charged personality that McCoy has. And both your points about Spock being a different person, his approach being different now, is completely on point. Yeah. Completely on point.
So we cut back to the Enterprise where we're continuing to get whatever radiation we need off of the nuclear reactor. And then we cut to, I would say, a fairly extended sequence of we're up on the bridge of the naval vessel Enterprise, and they're seeing some suspicious things. There's a power drain. There's stuff going on. They make a phone call to some other guys, and they go, "Yeah, we see something too." And we start to go, "Uh-oh, I think we have an intruder."
I can hardly hear you. My transporter power is down to minimal. I've got to bring you in one at a time.
And Czechov naturally says, "You go first." I, the Russian guy, will wait in the U.S. Naval.
But what's great about this too, how many times in the original show, transporter was not working. We got to, like in Tholian Webb, you three go back, Spock, McCoy, and Czechov. Kirk, we hear on the Defiant, or in the Doomsday Machine, of course, that down to the wire moment where Kirk is still on the Constellation right before the planet killer, eats it up. And this is just such a classic Star Trek moment. I don't have enough power, transporter isn't working,
Sure.
I got to bring it back one at a time. But it still works. The stakes, once again, are raised in a different way on top of all the other stakes that have been raised throughout the course of this journey, especially since they've been in the 20th century. But it does, like the way that they've been able, they meaning the writers and certainly producer Hart Bennett and Nicholas Meyer and director Leonard Nimoy were able to organically give each of the Star Trek cast members just moments to shine. And we're about to see Czechov shine in a big way.
You know what occurs to me is we already said that if everyone gets knocked out, Kirk is always the last one to get knocked out and the first one to wake up. When it comes down to that last possible second and Scotty, you got to beam me out, Kirk gets beamed out.
Yeah, of course he does. Every time.
But what's funny about Czechov is, he's like, Scotty, do you read? Do you hear? And then you hear the footsteps of the soldiers coming down the steps and coming in through the bulkheads. And then, Czechov kind of just gives up. He just goes, now would be a good time, Scotty.
Cut to Czechov. And I think this continues to be a payoff for this joke that has been set up.
Yeah.
He's now sitting in the chair, the Russian member of Starfleet being interrogated.
I am Pavel Czechov, a commander in Starfleet, United Federation of Planets. Service number 656-5827D.
Great fish out of water moment. So the two guys who were interrogating him, this is like an Abbott and Costello who's on first moment.
Totally.
And it is so funny because, Walter Koenig is playing it straight. He's very in character as Czechov, but the tone around him is completely changed. It is serious, but it is also play for the comic moments that it so is putting out on the table there. But the timing of it is just so... I always smile watching this moment.
Let's take it from the top.
The top of what?
Name.
My name?
No, my name.
I do not know your name.
You play games with me, mister, and you're through.
I am? May I go now?
You're right. It's who's on first.
Yeah, I mean, totally. And Koenig is sometimes gets underappreciated for his comedic instincts. Like he's so good at this kind of stuff, and he plays with. And if you guys have interviewed him, you guys have spoken with him. If anybody's listening, watch interviews with him. He has such a just a smart mind, and he's quick on things, which is fun to watch.
Yeah, he is
talking about this stuff. So yeah,
I love the moment where they go, "What do you think? He's a Rusky." That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Of course he's a Rusky.
Yeah, and then he uses the R word, which was pretty standard in the 80s. Pretty standard in the 80s to use that word. Yeah.
And then Czechov gets a hold of his phaser. All the time in all of these Star Trek things where people that don't know what a phaser are playing around with phasers always scare me.
Well, I'm curious because we see his phaser not work here. But later, we're going to see Kirk's phaser work just fine in the hospital. So, is it the nuclear? Is it the nuclear energy?
Nuclear vessel.
The vessel is that
the nuclear vessel?
Sure.
In Alameda. Yes, I know. I said that.
That's what I said.
As Scott and I have determined from going through every episode, phasers work or don't work whenever it is convenient for the script. So many times, our phaser must be drained. Something happened to my phaser.
Like he grabs the he grabs the Klingon phaser and don't move or else I will have to stun you. And the guy says, "Go ahead, stun me." Now, when did sudden impact open?
I don't know. When?
Sudden impact, go ahead, make my day.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if that moment, go ahead, stun me, was a sort of play on the go ahead, make my day, Dirty Harry, famous classic line, because that's still to this day what I think of is go ahead, make my day.
That was 83. So it was like
there you go. Way to go, Mr. IMDb.
But somehow, and these military police on the Enterprise they're the worst. Like then he just manages to run away, and then he's running through this whole ship, and no one can catch him until he accidentally falls off the side of the ship and lands on the ground. And which I remember seeing it in the theater and being like, "Oh my god,
yeah,
is he dead? Like what happened to Czechov?"
Yeah. But what moment with Czechov wouldn't be complete without the Czechov scream?
Oh, great
point! You do hear the Czechov scream when he goes flying off the Enterprise or the Ranger, whatever.
This trilogy puts Czechov through a lot of shit. The 2, 3, and 4
he does
through a lot.
Yep, through a lot.
Back on the Bounty, we hear from Scotty that the process is going to take into tomorrow.
That's not good enough, Mr. Scott. You've got to do better.
I'll try, sir, Scott. Well, he's in a wee bit of a snit, isn't he?
He's a man of deep feelings.
Aye. What else is new?
Ain't that the truth?
Well, and to me, that's another moment of Spock, of the evolution of Spock.
Right.
Because he doesn't talk about that being illogical. He goes, yes, this is true. This is an admirable trait.
I'm accepting him for who he is, right? Instead of judging him for who he is. There's a difference there. And Scotty, and this is why Scotty is great at his job, he just blows it off. He doesn't take it personal. Scotty goes, that's very true. And then just moves on with his day because he's used to working with Kirk. He knows Kirk's heart's in the right place, even if he might be in a bit of a snit, which I think is great.
I've been rewatching The West Wing recently, which is, along with Star Trek, my other favorite show of all time.
Sure.
And what's kind of remarkable, I hadn't watched it in many years, and it's like, oh, this is the first time this really feels dated. I mean, it feels dated because the world doesn't reflect the West Wing in any way at this moment.
No,
but it feels dated in other ways. But one of the big things I notice is, man, Bartlett is an asshole. Like Jed Bartlett can be a very, very difficult person, but everybody around him accepts it because he's such an exceptional person. And that's what that moment with Scotty is to me, is going like, yeah, he is a man of deep feelings. And that's what happens when you get to work under Captain Kirk. He is going to be intense sometimes.
His heart's on his sleeve all the time.
Yeah, sure is.
We're back at the Cetacean Institute, and Jillian opens up the door with her key, and there in front of her is an empty tank. The whales are gone.
Oh, the whales are gone. And you're just like, oh no. George and Gracie are gone.
It's really sad. Yeah. I also go like, wait, so they literally arranged moving 2 giant 40-ton whales in the middle of the night in order to save Jillian's feelings? Like, that's what you did? That doesn't make any sense at all.
But what's also good about this film is that, you hear so much about George and Gracie, and you get to see them here and there, with the visual effects and the tank, and certainly with the fins, slapping the top of the water when they come up for air. But as much as you continue to grow and care about the Enterprise crew, and grow to care about Jillian Taylor, you also grow to care about George and Gracie. That when they are gone, you feel the sadness.
Yeah. And certainly Jillian is about to lose her mind. Yeah.
She's losing her mind, yes.
They left last night. We didn't want a mob scene with the press. It wouldn't have been good for them. Besides, we thought it would be easier on you this way.
You sent them away without even letting me say goodbye to them? You son of a bitch!
Hey, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you can't do this at a job. You can't call your boss a son of a bitch and slap him and expect to come back the next day. So this it's just an interesting choice by Jillian to make this move here.
But at this point, I'm pretty sure if she did not get to come back to work the next day, she'd be okay with that.
Probably, yeah.
Because her whole purpose of being there is gone. She was there for George and Gracie, and George and Gracie aren't there. She wasn't given the dignity to say goodbye. And she's hurt and she's pissed and she has every right to be. And when she slaps Bob, the actor Scott Devaney, he did not know that slap was coming. And that was a solid slap. And
yes, it was.
He just kept going. He went with it. And it hurt, but he was like, it was good for the moment, good for the scene.
Wow. Okay.
John, what is the most painful piece of stage combat you ever had to take?
A sword.
Did you get hit with a sword?
Yes, a heavy sword. Yes. Let's just say I haven't always been in the most professional productions. I mean, I've had my head in a swamp with the weird bugs flying around by my head. There's little things you do as an actor to establish yourself, and you respect the fact that these creators don't have the money to protect you all the time. So you get into situations. But yes, someone brought a very heavy sword. They had dulled down the edges, but it still hurt like a motherfucker because they missed their mark on the swing. And they hit me square on the right side of the arm. It was pretty brutal in terms of my reaction. So
wow, damn.
Yeah. But I mean, he was so apologetic and all of that, so you knew it wasn't intentional. It just was. You just had to get over the initial reaction.
After she slams Bob, she storms out, gets in the truck, and just absolutely cries. Then thinks for a
can
moment.
We stop for a second?
Yeah.
I got to give shout out to the dude who is like watering the sidewalk, because she shows up and she walks right past, doesn't even say hello to him, walks right past him, goes in, has the moment, comes out, then slaps Bob, and then walks right past him again. And my boy just calmly still cleaning the sidewalk. I bet he was just thinking, there goes Jillian again.
Yeah.
I'm sure Jillian has got a reputation in that place. So, but yeah, I just wanted to shout that out because I thought it was funny.
We cut to a helicopter flying with a big rectangle of, I'm assuming it's not transparent aluminum, but it is something we're going to need to build our tanks. And we cut inside to Sulu, who's smiling as he flies. We have just the littlest of bit where he's having a good time flying, hits a switch, accidentally turns on the windshield wipers, and gives a great reaction. And then we cut to Jillian, who is looking up as she drives into the park through the trees, and she sees this helicopter lowering this thing into nothingness where Kirk gets out of her truck, runs calling Admiral Kirk, and runs right into the invisible ship.
She is really seeing the 23rd century happen like right before her eyes. Is there? There's something invisible here. It's obviously very, very big. A helicopter is lowering something into something, but it's disappearing. And, and then she's going to, really start to feel something she's never felt before.
I also think like they basically treat Golden Gate Park like it is in the middle of nowhere or something. It's like, I think I've been to Golden Gate Park. I mean, it's crowded. So a helicopter flying into an invisible ship would probably get noticed.
It's like landing one in Central Park thinking no one's going to run into it on accident. Yeah.
And I love her reaction when the transporter hits her of just like, oh my God.
Oh. Hello, Alice.
Hello, Alice. Welcome to Wonderland.
Oh, it's true.
It's true.
What you said.
Yes, it is.
And I think Kirk, as always, he knows like his performance matches what he needs to do to make her feel comfortable coming onto the ship. Mm-hmm. And I think at this moment, as the whales are gone, Jillian has actually learned that they really are from the 23rd century. Czechov is injured and nowhere to be found. I think it's a good time to end part 2 of our exploration of Star Trek 4. Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts. You can visit us on our Facebook page. Just do a search for the Cine-Files. It's Cine_Files on Twitter, the Cine-Files podcast on Instagram. And if you want to subscribe to the show, you can do it at all the podcast apps. They all work. But if you happen to be on Spotify or Apple, we'd love your reviews. We can also take comments on Spotify and on YouTube. You can buy or stream Star Trek 4 along with every other film we've ever reviewed on cinephiles.net. And you can Support the show on patreon.com/the Cine-Files, as well as Apple Podcasts. And you can reach me at SR Morris on Twitter, SR Morris1 on Instagram. John, how would folks reach you?
Yeah, you can always follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Blue Sky and Threads. I'm all over there and having some fun doing stuff on those channels. But of course, you can head over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. It will be, by the time you hear this, it will have officially become the John Rocha channel. The Outlaw Nation is no more. So come and subscribe to all the stuff we got going on over there. And another fun conversation with you guys. Can't wait to wrap up next time.
I will never put down my flag from the Outlaw Nation. I believe in the Outlaw Nation. The Outlaw Nation will live on. Scott, how would people find you?
You can find me on all the usual channels, TikTok, Instagram, formerly Twitter, at Moviemans. But more importantly, if you've been listening to these first two parts of Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, then you absolutely must be listening to Enterprise Incidents with Scott and Steve, and occasionally John Rocha, where we went deep into each and every episode of the original series and the animated series in production order, with great guests and a completely new, fresh take on the arc of the original series, the arc of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And if you have not yet heard Enterprise Incidents with Scott and Steve, do go over to Apple Podcasts or to Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and start from the beginning. Enterprise Incidents, start with the cage and go all the way through to Turnabout Intruder and then into the animated series. Check out our Facebook page, Enterprise Incidents, and make sure you got to listen to Enterprise Incidents. You are missing out if you are a Trekker and you have never heard Enterprise Incidents.
There you go.
All right, I think that's it for this week. We will conclude The Voyage Home next week right here on the Cine-Files.